Hey, this is Seth, and in this video, I'm going to answer the question, will the recent verdict that determined that Google has a monopoly on search mean the end of digital marketing jobs, the breakup of Google, and the end of the world as we know it online? I'm going to get into this in more detail because, as usual, there's a lot more to this story than the headlines would lead you to believe. And if you're considering a career in digital marketing, I've been getting this question a lot. I'm going to answer this question and explain what does the future look like for digital marketing jobs specifically. But before I do that, please remember, if you like this content, please click that like button and subscribe to my channel so you're always notified when I post more informative content. So back in August, headlines emerged which said, Google has an illegal monopoly on search, judge rules, here's what's next. There's even headlines like this, US considers breaking up Google after illegal monopoly ruling report says, oh my God, Google is done. Holy cow. Well, let's see what actually happened. Now, for you guys who don't know what monopoly means, which is totally understandable because we haven't heard about this word for a long time. Monopoly is the exclusive possession or control of the supply of a trade in commodity or service. The state's monopoly of radio and television broadcasting, which is something you see in a communist country. Back in the old days, we all learned in school about the railroads. There were these huge companies that had all the railroads. There was no competition, and that is a monopoly, which is not good. There are laws. The Sherman Antitrust Act was passed to prevent any company from just dominating a particular industry. So it's fair to ask that question. A lot of people wonder, well, Google seems to dominate search engine marketing. Are they doing something illegal? Well, let's look and see what this was all about. Google has violated U.S. antitrust law with its search business. A federal judge ruled Monday, handing the tech giant a staggering court defeat. Now remember, guys, when you read news articles, remember they are trying to get your attention. They're trying to hit your emotions, not necessarily give you the facts at the beginning of the article. You have to dig into it to get the facts. And again, guys, this is all in the context of, will this affect your digital marketing job now, or if you're looking to get into the field? Because people think, well, if Google gets broken up, maybe there won't be any more Google and all these jobs are going to go away. Let's dig into this a little more before we start to panic. Google has violated U.S. antitrust law with its search business. A federal judge ruled Monday, handing the tech giant a staggering court defeat with the potential to reshape how millions of Americans get information online and to upend decades of dominance. Oh my God, Google is going down. Their search ad business, all that revenue, those billions of dollars are going away. That's what they want you to think. The decision is a stunning rebuke of Google's oldest and most important business. Whew. But is it? No, that's not actually what's happening. Google's not being broken up at all. This has nothing to do with their search ad business, which is the source of all the jobs, or not all, most of the jobs you've seen my students get on this channel, and hundreds of thousands of jobs throughout the world. What actually this lawsuit was about the practice Google has of having contracts with smartphone companies like Samsung and Apple to ensure that their Chrome browser is the default browser and that Google is the default search engine on most of these smartphones and in many web browsers. And that is a fair point. Is this legal? Is this illegal? I mean, I think it's, Apple obviously is willingly making these contracts and happy to take Google's money to make sure that Google is the default search engine. However, the idea that Google's dominance on search is because of these contracts and because when you get a phone you see Google Chrome, I think that's really absurd. And here's how I know that. Every year, millions of PCs are sold across the world. Millions. Microsoft, we all know, dominates the PC market. It was Apple and then there's, PCs, which all have Microsoft Windows, right? What does Microsoft pre-install in every computer you've ever used? Bing. Microsoft Edge browser and Bing as a search engine. So by that same logic, because Microsoft is out there making Microsoft Edge and Bing the default, then Bing should be dominating the search engine market, but Bing only has 10% of the market. So this reasoning is completely faulty. Google's dominance is not due to the fact that they're the default search engine on so many smartphones. It's due to the fact that everybody uses Google. Google's never done a single ad. I've never seen an ad on television to use Google. Whereas Bing has had to invest millions, if not billions of dollars on television advertising campaigns to try to get people to use Bing. Google just has this appeal to people, and they've had it for 20 years. So the idea that making it so, okay, now you get your Android smartphone or you get your Apple iPhone, and guess what? The default browser is no longer Google Chrome. The default browser becomes Bing or DuckDuckGo or something. I really don't think, like I said, if that were the case, if having the default browser being the one reason why people choose a search engine, then Bing would be dominating because it's pre-installed in all these PCs. It says, here, these contracts have long meant that when users want to find information, Google is generally the easiest and quickest platform to go to, which in turn has fueled Google's massive online advertising business. This is, it's absurd. And I'd say Google, first of all, Google's going to appeal this. And again, I'm going to explain why you really shouldn't worry about this if you're a digital marketer, because it's not going to affect your job. But the first thing is Google's going to appeal this. Second of all, this type of thing was done with Microsoft 25 years ago, and Microsoft was, they had headlines that were very similar, like, oh my God, Microsoft is a monopoly, it's going to get broken up. No, Microsoft, as we know, is still going very, very strong. And this is the most important thing. While the court did not find that Google has a monopoly in search ads, now they're going to kind of use a lot of gobbledygook language to say, well, yes, this is the first time that, big tech has been taken down by the government, blah, blah. But this is the key thing. The court did not find that Google has a monopoly in search ads, because they don't. So if you haven't seen my other videos about this is what I teach in my digital marketing course, is how to manage these ads. When you type in a search on Google, some search terms will elicit an ad like this. Sponsored, if I do dentist out at Colorado Springs, Mountain Smiles Dentistry sponsored. The company is paying money to show up at the top of the search results, and you're free to ignore it and just scroll down and look at all these other results if you want. But if you click on this, then this company, Mountain Smiles Dentistry, pays, it could be $2, could be $10, and Google takes a percentage of that, and that's how they make $300 billion a year. And this, there's no monopoly, as it said right there. There's no monopoly on search ads. The court did not find that Google has a monopoly in search ads because there's no way to monopolize this. People who happen to go to Google, this is where they've chosen to do their search, and Google has the right, of course, to serve their ads and make a profit from it. Their sort of circular reasoning, or their very complex reasoning, is that because Google has deals that are deemed illegal with Apple and Samsung to put the Google Chrome browser, and then hence the Google as the default search engine, and show these ads, that somehow constitutes a monopoly. The court said it's not. They do not have a monopoly on search ads, and that is where Google makes almost all their money. If you go here, you can see like Q4 2023, $48 billion in Q4 2023 from Google search ads. And I'm going to get to explain what these other things mean in a minute. The point is, guys, that this is another example of the media blowing something out of proportion without much detail. I've even had people message me and say, Google's going to be broken up. There's not going to be any Google. That's not it. They're not going to touch the Google search engine. What they are going to probably do, or try to do, is to get Google to stop having these contracts with Apple or other smartphone manufacturers. But before that even happens, Google's going to appeal this. And you have to remember that Microsoft was also found guilty of breaking antitrust law years ago, and they appealed, and they overturned some of these decisions on appeal. Google has a ton of money. This is just beginning, and it really will have absolutely no bearing on search ads. The second thing to remember, guys, is that if for whatever reason, if there ever was a situation where somebody said, this is a monopoly, Google, you have too much power, too many people are using your search engine, and you're making too much money, $48 billion a quarter is too much to make, for whatever reason, we're breaking, I don't even know how they break you out, but they're going to do something. And now everybody has to go search on Bing. Now all the advertisers would go to Bing. It's the same thing when people ask me if ChatGPT, OpenAI being incorporated into Bing was going to somehow get rid of all of Google's business. And I said, it doesn't matter. If everybody goes over to Bing, and Bing has ads just like this, the advertisers, they're going to pay all the money to Bing. Bing will become huge, and advertisers will pay you, the digital marketer, to manage Bing ads instead of Google ads. So at the end of the day, as a digital marketer, your job is safe. That is basically my point with this. This lawsuit has nothing to do with getting rid of Google search or even touching Google search. Last time I'll say it, the court did not find Google has a monopoly in search ad. That is the big takeaway. And now, because there's a lot of posturing, victory against Google is a historic win for the American people. I say, dude, guys, I don't really personally like the fact that Google, Facebook, and Amazon in particular have all this power, but we give them that power by using their products. And if everybody stopped using Google, they'd go bankrupt. But people use it, I think, because it's the fastest, easiest thing to use. And I like to use DuckDuckGo. I try to get away from it, but sometimes I'm using it and I'm like, it's just not as good in terms of giving me quick, relevant search results. Regardless of what my personal opinions are about it, it's what people are using. It's where all the advertisers are. And it's where the jobs are. And again, if the advertisers moved over to Bing, then you would just be managing Bing accounts. The other thing I wanted to point out is that there is a second lawsuit against Google, which has to do with the display network. Now, this is another thing that's being misrepresented a little bit. So this article says Google's search business was deemed a monopoly. Now its ad business is on trial. Now, ad business, this is so misrepresentative. Google's search ads are their main business where they make most of their money, but their secondary source of income is what we call the display network. Now, you've seen these ads, and I'm in Hungary at the moment, so this ad is in Hungarian, but when you see these ads on the side of a CNBC or Fox News or USA Today, whatever website you're on, when you see these ads, most of these are served by Google. There's some other ad networks, but Google does also dominate this, what they call the display network, which is where you see ads displayed on the side of a web page. And it is, this is, a legitimate lawsuit. They're saying that, sorry, I'm at the wrong article, but basically that Google is using anti-competitive practices to the point where you're seeing Google ads all over all the websites, that they basically bought out competitors and done a lot of shady things in order to dominate this display network advertising platform. Now, it says $31 billion portion of Google Ads businesses. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this one because this thing is still unfolding. But what you have to understand is, guys, whenever you've seen on my YouTube channel, all those people who have gotten jobs in PPC, search engine management, work, related to Google, almost none of those had to do with this portion of Google's ad network. Almost none of them. And that's what I was showing you before here, is that if you look at their revenue, 48 billion, and now it's more this year. 48 billion a quarter is from Google search, those search results I showed you a minute ago. And the Google network, which is what they're referring to, is $8 billion a quarter. 8 times 4 is 32 billion, and that's what they're referring to here when they say 31 billion. This is a very, very small percentage of Google's ad revenue. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with this. They could win, they could lose. Whatever happens with display, that's almost very little to do with what I'm teaching and where you've seen my students get jobs. But again, even if the government intercedes and somehow says, hey, Google, you have a monopoly over placing these ads here on these websites, then it would be a different platform would go into place, and advertisers would still need people, professionals, to manage that advertising. You shouldn't worry about this. Look at the details. Again, whenever you see a news article at all, look beyond the headline. Headlines are designed to get your attention, get your emotions going, get you freaked out. Because if they can get you freaked out and fearful, then you're going to keep reading because you want to know things. It gets your attention. You always have to look deeper to understand what is actually happening. So if you are still interested in a digital marketing career, it is still a great time. As interest rates come down, the economy is going to start to ramp up again, and there's going to be more advertising. And again, there's still so many opportunities. Colleges still do not teach digital marketing. I don't know when they're going to start doing it. It's insane to me. People graduate with marketing majors and they've never even heard of Google search ads or display ads or half the things my students learn within the first week of taking my course. If you want to learn more about how to start a career in digital marketing with no previous experience or education, click the link below to check out my free webinar. I go into even more detail about this. And I've helped thousands of people since 2016 start careers who had, again, no experience. I've helped people who are waiting tables, working in warehouses, working in other careers, make a transition because, again, there's such a low barrier for entry to get into this field because it's growing so fast and the mainstream doesn't understand. And you can even see here, again, with the media misleading people about what this actually means, people are out there with all these misconceptions about what this lawsuit means, and people have misconceptions or really no idea about what search advertising is and how Google is making their $48 billion a quarter. So much of that is in search ads, and companies need people like you to manage those ads. So again, I explained more of that in the webinar, and my big takeaway is don't worry about this lawsuit. It's not going to affect your jobs or the opportunities in this field. If you want to learn more about it, please click the link below and check out my webinar. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.